Hello and welcome back to a new year of racing. First race of the season. Just finished it up today, so working on the video right now. This is the Wells Ave race. Done this one a couple of times. Last year as well as the year before that. I think my first year actually might have been 2022. I think I did one race then. For the C race here, this is the equivalent of like Cat 5. It's a practice race, so there's no points awarded or anything like that. And the beginning starts with 3 neutral laps. Kind of get everyone warmed up. Make sure the folks who are new to racing, of which there are definitely some new folks in the field today. During the neutral laps, I was chatting with some of the folks around me, and there's at least one guy who said it was his first race. So welcome, and hope you had a good time. I certainly didn't see any crashes, so that means a good time for all, at least in some sense of the word. Last week's race I missed, which was the first Wells Ave of the season. It was pouring rain, so not super upset that I missed it. And it sounds like there were also a couple crashes, so hope everyone was okay, but saw some crazy footage. I'll link it in the description. A few almost crashes that managed to get saved, which was really cool. So we've got a couple teams in this race, but it is a C race, or Cat 5 race. So in chatting with some of the folks on the teams, of course they're not necessarily going to tell you the truth about what their strategy is, but I got the sense that folks are just kind of here to practice racing in general. Team tactics is not high on the list of things to work on, at least for the folks I talked to. And this actually comes up later in the race when I think in my head that there's probably something smarter that should be going on with the teams, but doesn't happen. And I think maybe it was wrong for me to assume that at this level. Obviously I'm at this level, so I have to kind of race my own race. And as you'll see, I race it okay, but I think I make a couple mistakes here and there, and we'll jump around and talk about those. So you can see this race picks right up. We're all strung out in a single file, so we're going super fast, at least for the C race. 27 miles an hour. I'm trying to keep up with this group of strong guys up in front. Got this nice little hill here on the course. Pretty much the only course feature to talk about. The turns are super easy. You can basically pedal through them the entire race, except like maybe that first turn coming into this if you're going super fast. But I think if you have the room to take it all the way, like curb to curb, I think you could probably pedal through at, even sprint numbers or something crazy fast. So we've got at least 3 teams worth talking about here. There might have been more teams, but I didn't recognize them from their jerseys or anything like that. And there were a lot of folks at this race today. In the blue and white kit up there, you can see one of the teams. I didn't actually catch the team name. I'll look it up later, but I'll call them the New Hampshire team because at least one of them is from New Hampshire, is what he told me. In front of them is, in that blue and black and a little orange kit, is the B2CT team. And then earlier you might have seen them in the orange kit is the New England Devo team, which is the development team for New England. So it's all like junior riders, I believe. Still early in the race, but we've got a move coming up here that looks pretty dangerous. We have the New Hampshire team in the white and blue kit, 2 riders together, and then we have in the blue and black kit here the B2CT team following the move. And this rider in the black jersey on the front kind of drops the wheel. He lets him roll away a little bit, whether he's too tired or just doesn't want to chase it back. And that has me worried. A group of 3 like that, especially with 2 teammates in it, could easily work together and manage to stick it and stay away. Whether or not they choose to work together is another question, but it is something I'm thinking about as I see them kind of build out this gap of a couple seconds. So I'm trying to keep track of it, and I don't want to jump out into the wind and bridge across right now because they don't have that big of a gap. Maybe that would have been a good idea, but I'm also still hurting. Like, I'm up at 180 beats per minute, which is pretty high for me. So this section of the course is also into a headwind, so if I have to solo bridge across, I very well might just stitch it back together for the rest of the field and put all that work in for no reason. Given how fast we're also going now, like in the draft, I'm still putting in 200 watts, over 200. I'm not super worried. We're not going like super slow. Whoever's on front seems motivated to pull this back. Or at least to try and pull it back. And you can see the gap is actually getting shorter here. So once I see them around this corner and see that we're kind of reeling them back in, I think to myself, yeah, this is probably safe. I don't need to try and jump across. So at this point, we've caught the front group. They've kind of sat up. They seem a little tired. And this guy in the blue and psychedelic looking kit just kind of starts rolling off the front. Nice, easy clip. The New Hampshire team sees him kind of start to get a gap, and I assume they're just tired from their break and aren't able to kind of latch on, and he just accelerates away up the field. Kind of nuts, and it's still early, so in my head I'm thinking, it's a solo rider. We've got a couple teams. It seems like there's some strong folks in the field here. The teams should be motivated to pull this solo rider back. And I think, at the higher levels of racing from the videos I've seen, not that I've done any of the racing, that would make sense. That, we could expect that the teams that have a sprinter want to stitch this back together, or even if they don't have a sprinter, need to stitch this back together so that they are racing for first place. And in a C race like this, I think that that's not something I should have expected, or at least not something that happens necessarily as strongly. I think a lot of the folks here are working on, not team tactics, but, racing in a pack, anticipating moves, things like that, and not necessarily focused on racing for a specific member of the team, and pulling back solo riders like this. And we'll see that he manages to stay away the whole time, the whole rest of the 15 minutes or so that we've got. Maybe not 15 minutes at this point, but a good number of laps. And he's got a pretty decent gap at this point. We're still pulling pretty hard, but coming up the hill doing 300 watts, not crazy. But there's a decent amount of headwind on the start-finish straight, and so I figure someone's gonna pull this back, right? Like, we've got some strong people here, but it doesn't happen. So let's jump forward a little bit and see what we got. So it's only half a lap later, but the gap is starting to expand, and I'm a little worried that this guy's gonna get away. And into this headwind, it doesn't seem like the folks on the front are really kind of pushing. And so I think to myself, my favorite place to attack on this course is into that hill. And so I'm trying to get into a good position. I probably shouldn't be on the front here. I probably should be another wheel back so I can kind of wind up into the turn better. And I think this is one of those mistakes that I'm making just because I'm getting back into racing for the year, and it's been, months since I've raced. And so I kind of wind it up here into the turn, spin up the watts, and try and kind of come around these guys on the front coming up the hill to avoid, giving them too much of a draft, even if they hop onto my wheel. And if anything, this is a little faster, and so hopefully we can kind of claw back this a little bit, and I'll motivate the group to kind of pull him back. I look back and I can kind of see I've strung out the the field a little bit. I have at least 1 or 2 riders on my wheel. And I think my mistake here is that I keep pulling. I'm still doing 300 watts, which is well over my FTP of around 250. And that's hurting my legs. And you can see I start to give up here. I elbow, no one comes through because no one wants to pull on this part. I did kind of just attack the field, but it wasn't that hard. Like, I didn't really snap it. I think the smart thing would have been, as soon as I saw that the field was on my wheel, I should have just sat up, saved the legs a little bit, because I think this really puts a dig in my legs, just doing that, over FTP effort for a little bit of time, and then I let the group come around me, and I have to ramp back up to come up to speed as they come around me. So a lap or so later, the field's picked it up a little bit. I think whoever's on the front is really pushing it. I've drifted back further than I think I would have liked, but that attack really, sapped my legs a little bit more than I kind of expected, and so I'm hurting. I think I also here am not doing a great job of holding wheels. Like, you can see a pretty big gap here. I should have, even coming up to 400, I can see, I'm out of the wheel. I should have stayed a little bit closer so I didn't have to snap quite so hard. And this whole time I'm getting less draft, which is just less efficient. And that all adds up throughout the race. Here, instead of tapping brakes, I see I can kind of slot up behind these riders. Probably a good idea. But you can see just how many riders there are in front, and the group is kind of splintering, and so I'm a little worried that this group in front is going to manage to stick together and kind of form a chase group after that single rider in the front. See the rider in front of me finally manages to stick it back together, which was great. That was I'm very lucky that they had the legs to kind of pull us back together, and I kind of got to chill in the draft as we brought the groups back into one big group. Speaking of big groups, this was a lot more riders for the C race than previous years that I've done, which is exciting. That's awesome. It's really nice to see a lot of folks coming out and racing, and I think it's a lot more fun when you have more folks to race against. This field is always a weird one because it's a C race, so there's a lot of folks who are new to racing, but maybe not new to cycling fitness, group riding, things like that. So you never know kind of how fast the group's gonna go, or, it's not really sandbagging because it's their first race, but like they have, they got really strong legs, much stronger legs than me, for example. And I'm definitely a little jealous. And you can see we've got, folks who are new to racing and, have their numbers upside down, easy mistake to make. I think I might have made it at least once. And hopefully someone commented to them after the race, and they got it fixed. There was one gentleman I talked to after the race who had his number on the wrong side. He was joking that he came in first, but the number was on the wrong side, so too bad. I don't think he actually was the one off the front, though. think here's another good example of me not sticking to the wheels when I should. Even if I had to kind of spike up the power a little bit, as you could kind of see that I did, I should just be like in these wheels better, getting a better draft. All this inefficiency adds up in, weaker legs, and, that costs me at the end of the race, as you'll see. And speaking of end of the race, we're coming in here to the last lap. For some reason in my head, I thought there was at least one more lap, but I guess not. I wasn't doing a great job of keeping track of the lap cards, and I didn't really hear them calling out the lap numbers either, which is normally like a nice thing to do, but I don't think they necessarily have to. And my legs are shot. I think, there's a couple poor decisions I make here that are maybe, with hindsight, if I decided to burn those last matches here, for example, instead of kind of drifting back, and if I had slotted in, I wouldn't have lost quite so many wheels, and I could have stuck in the draft all the way to the finish line and maybe tried to sprint out of the bunch. But instead, I'm kind of, I'm chilling behind this rider, and at this point, I'm like, okay, I have a little bit of legs left, and I decide too late, I'm way too far back, let me move up, which is dumb. I spike up to not that high, but like 300 watts at, with my legs hurting. That's one of my last matches. And so I'm popped out into the wind. I recover, 3 wheels, which is just not an efficient effort. From videos like NorCal Cycling, you learn very easily that the best way to move up is to move up when you can make up a lot of wheels and not spend a ton of effort. And that was basically the opposite, what I just did there. So instead, I'm, too far back to really contest this group sprint. Although at this point, the race is already over. That solo rider has won off the front for first place. So everyone's sprinting for second here. And so I'm just sitting and putting down the power as best I can. Definitely still hurting, but also, thinking to myself, might as well try and get a good workout in. And these 2 riders around the side of me managed to pass me. So it was very silly for me to come out into the win there. So I think it was a dumb mistake, but a learning opportunity, and I'm hoping that when I'm out next week, do a little bit better. Had a great time, good workout, got to eat a donut after, and I'll see you all next week. Thanks for watching.